So for more, let's bring in former lead investigator of the January 6th committee, Tim Heaphy, Atlantic staff writer and MSNBC contributor Mark Leibovich, and political commentator Ashley Pratte Oates. Welcome to all three of you. Tim, you first here because top Trump administration officials, and that includes Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, they all met at the White House last week to talk strategy around Epstein and other matters. Have we ever seen such close coordination between these two historically independent departments with the White House, let alone when it comes to a matter involving the president?
No, Alex, not in my memory. You're putting your finger on the precise big picture issue here, which is this is not about a criminal investigation. This is not about the facts. This is political, right? Nothing that's happening here is normal. The interview post-conviction of a convicted sex offender by the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, evaluating whether or not she should be given some benefit for testimony, and the release of confidential investigative files, none of that corresponds to how things typically work in the Department of Justice and the criminal justice system. That just reveals that this isn't about the facts. This is about some political narrative that the administration and some of its supporters have been wrangling over for months. And there are real innocent people here at stake. There are victims. There are people whose privacy and could be re-traumatized or could be maligned because of their presence in these files.
So, Ashley, Vice President Vance denied reports about this meeting, saying it would happen at his home. NBC News reported that it actually took place at the White House. And here's what Vice President Vance said about it.
We did meet at the White House yesterday. We actually didn't talk about the Epstein issue at all. That was never meant to be the subject of the meeting. He wants us to be fully transparent, and he wants the credible information out there. So we're working to compile the thousands and thousands of documents that are out there.
Look, only those in attendance are really going to know what was talked about. But does this help with public perception around the case?
I don't think so. I mean, he's out there trying to do the dirty work of the administration and taking the hits because the administration has pledged all along radical transparency, and nothing about this is radical. Well, I will say it is radical, but it is not transparent. And I think the real issue here, right, is the American people deserve answers. And when you have the Attorney General out there saying that these papers have been on her desk, and that was back in February, why are they being withheld from the public? And these strategy sessions are all about one thing: protecting Donald Trump and his political power. It is not about justice for the victims, which is exactly what the DOJ should be focusing on instead.
So, Mark, it's actually been a while since we've heard from Pam Bondi or Kash Patel, despite the heat that they have taken from the MAGA base. And The Independent points out Bondi was a Fox News regular, but hasn't been on the network since June. And she's reportedly been dealing with a personal health issue. But is keeping her out of the limelight and closing ranks a strategy to avoid answering questions on Epstein?
Probably because the first question she will inevitably get if she ever comes before some kind of objective panel or press or something like that will be, well, what about these files that you have on your desk? I mean, that's really the first question that she should get because, you know, she said it. It was presumed to be true. She's the Attorney General of the United States. And I mean, what about it? I think that's probably a big part of the reason. I mean, I don't know what else is at stake here or what else is in play here. But I think the larger issue here is that the Attorney General, the FBI Director, the Deputy Attorney General are not typically involved in damage control or strategy hearings or strategy sessions, whether it's at the White House or the Vice President's house or what have you. Now, if Vance says what he said is true, which is that Epstein's name didn't come up at all in these things, I mean, okay, that's maybe somewhat innocent, but it doesn't mean that there's not strategy or damage control or PR interest being discussed. So, look, this is just one of those things that we now take for granted just because so many lines have been crossed here.
So, Tim, the DOJ moved to have the grand jury exhibits from the Epstein and Maxwell cases released since they were unsuccessful getting the transcripts. Will they get a better result here? And what could those show more than the transcripts would?
Yeah, not much, Alex. I just don't think that the grand jury transcript or exhibits are going to shed much light on the underlying issues in which people are interested. You know, prosecutors present evidence to grand jurors specifically to obtain indictments. All they have to do is establish that there is probable cause that certain named individuals committed charged offenses. They are not meant to be fulsome presentations of entire investigations. My understanding is that the grand jury transcript was simply a law enforcement officer who was recounting summary highlights of the investigation. There may be some documents, some photos or some documents that were shown to the grand jury. But again, that is unlikely to be the comprehensive account of everything the government learned about Jeffrey Epstein that the public is clamoring to hear.
So, Ashley, the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed a host of high-profile public figures over the Epstein case, but they left out the survivors and the sweetheart deal-maker Alex Acosta. Is this just Republicans dabbling in the politics around this case and not getting to the root issues?
It's all about the show, right? They can show that they're trying to move the needle forward because they know right now that this is actually a bipartisan issue. There's a lot of people who want to see these records released, specifically the client list. And we all know that Donald Trump is likely to be named in those files. And those conversations have been made to the public as well, where it has been said that Trump was connected to Epstein. There's photos, there's files, there's all of these things. So I do think at this point, by leaving out not only the victims, but the one who made the deal with Epstein, that is a huge just slap in the face to the victims. And again, how will justice ever be served if their voices won't be brought to the table? And it looks as though in these strategy conversations, again, they're trying to drown out those voices and preserve the political protections of Donald Trump.
Hey, Tim, as someone who led a congressional investigation, are there any good reasons to leave out Acosta and the survivors? And what are the chances we eventually see some kind of a public hearing on this by Congress?
Look, Ashley's exactly right. It depends on what your goal is. If the goal is to uncover the facts about what happened with respect to Jeffrey Epstein, then absolutely you'd want the victims. They'd be the tip of the spear as to revealing facts that are important. Alex Acosta was the U.S. attorney who cut some sort of deal with Jeffrey Epstein to dismiss certain cases and insist on a guilty plea to one. Again, if this is about the process that led to that decision, then he would certainly be there. If it's, however, meant to be political grandstanding and forwarding some narrative that they are pursuing some deep state conspiracy, then it makes more sense to bring people in who are 3 or 4 steps removed from the facts. Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, they were not involved in the day-to-day wheel turning of that investigation. So their relevance to this, very hard to understand.
Mark, I want to ask you about ABC News, which reports that Ghislaine Maxwell said in her discussions with Todd Blanche that President Trump didn't do anything of concern in her presence. Now, NBC News cannot verify this claim, but will the MAGA base buy it?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, it would certainly strain credibility a great deal. I mean, of course she's going to say that. I mean, what needs to be said also is that the Deputy Attorney General who did this interview, Todd Blanche, is Donald Trump's personal attorney, or was his personal attorney before. So, I mean, I think anyone who's been following this even casually would see that this does not pass any kind of smell test. That would obviously be part of her strategy to get, maybe lighter treatment. She's already been moved to a lesser secure facility. So, look, it's hard to trust this. Presumably, there's a lot of distrust around the MAGA base around this. So, maybe people will think critically going forward. But I think every time something like this happens, you get a sense of what might be in play here, which is just Ghislaine Maxwell trying to get a better deal for herself, and also Donald Trump and everyone on down who might be implicated trying to make this go away.